Hey,
Hey guys, I am Kristen Howerton and I blog at Rage Against the Minivan.
I'm Paul Martin and I blog at Paula Sophia.
Paul and I are friends coming from different political backgrounds. I'm a Democrat.
I'm a Republican.
And we are doing a weekly chat about politics.
We are, yeah. So there's been a bit of a lull. I mean, there aren't a lot of gates going on, wife gates and...
Yeah.
Trump's toning down the racist comments.
He really isn't racing against anyone at this moment.
Right, yeah. Did you see the Megyn Kelly interview?
No.
Last night?
No.
Yeah.
What happened?
I don't know. I don't think...
He interviewed with Megyn Kelly?
Yeah. It was last night and it was a big deal and he was very tame. And what's so funny to me, I'm going to go after you Trump supporters, is that, so Trump for 8 months talks about how he's not politically correct, right? Mm-hmm. He's not politically correct. He tells it like it is. Yeah. I'm rogue. But then you see this new Donald Trump, the Donald Trump 2.0. Yeah. Oh, he's completely mellow. He's guarded. He said he made some mistakes. He's now meeting with the Republican National Committee. He's meeting with Paul Ryan. He's going to Washington, D.C., building bridges with all these politicians, all of whom he said are stupid.
Right.
So it's like, why aren't his supporters saying, hey, you're becoming a politician?
Yeah, wait a minute. Yeah. This is what
I don't
want.
know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because you're expecting critical thinking.
Right. What do you guys think? We don't have any questions yet.
We don't. Although we may have to monitor. Last time we had a few. Speaking of rogue, we had a few interesting characters leaving us comments last time. Okay, so because there's a little bit of a lull, we decided we wanted to maybe tackle a different sort of political issue each week.
Some policy.
And the one that seems to be on everyone's Facebook page is this issue of transgender bathrooms, which has become a huge hot button item. I mean, everyone's posting about it. Everyone's talking about it.
Yeah.
And so this is basically a bill that would basically force schools to allow transgender students to go to the bathroom in the bathroom of the gender they identify with. So, in other words, if you've got a young transgender woman, so someone who is biologically born a boy but feels their identity is a girl, and this is someone who dresses as a girl, acts as a girl, identifies as a girl, obviously that person should go in the girl bathroom because they look like a girl. And in many cases, people don't even know what their biological gender is, because a lot of times parents of transgender kids will switch schools so that they can kind of keep it a secret. What are your thoughts on this whole thing?
It's so complicated, and I'm very leery on these issues because I could easily be thrown into the hater category before I even open my mouth, which I'm not. I want to be inclusive. I want people to feel safe and feel as though they can go into a bathroom that makes them feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that people should have the right to marry people of whatever they think. I'm for that and for civil rights. This one's tricky for me on a scientific level and on a philosophical level. On a scientific level, because according to one of my friends who's a distinguished professor of science and is a radical progressive, they are males. This is a matter of science. This is what he famously says to me often. Even though he's progressive, he says,
Doesn't sound progressive.
No, and you'd be surprised, but he's radically progressive. And he just says, just because I feel like I'm an African American, even though I'm white, and I'm German, I am not African American, even though I feel like I'm 5 years old. And so even though I feel like a female, I am biologically a male. So that's on a scientific level, and I know you're going to respond. And then on a philosophical level, it's just this subjectivism. Reality is whatever I think reality is. Mm-hmm. Reality is not based on facts anymore. Reality is based on whatever I feel is true is true. And so on those two levels, I struggle.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're going to argue, like science, we can't look at psychology through a lens of pure science. I mean, at the end of the day, psychology and identity is so much broader than like a binary. And so science deals in binaries and, I mean, generally speaking, although there are some people born with, with mixed biology.
Yeah.
But I think there's biology, and then there is gender identification, which really is not the same thing. Gender identification is more of how you feel, you identify. And I mean, the thing is, whether or not you or I or anyone agrees with someone's decision to be transgender, or their feeling, they still get to have the same rights. You know what I'm saying? It's the same way, with the issue of LGBT people being able to marry. Like, it doesn't really matter if you think it's a sin or okay or not. They have the right. So a person, I mean, for me, if I felt that being transgender was wrong, which I don't, but if I did, it's still not for me to say that they can't choose to live that way. And therefore, if they're living that way, and we're talking about, these are people who walk through life as another gender, it would be absurd for them to go.
And I agree. There's nothing you said that I disagree with, except the bathroom part, because I think absolutely they have every right until, and I think tens of millions of parents would agree, their daughter is in the bathroom and some male walks in. You're not, in some cases, you're not really sure. I mean, there are going to be cases where I think the system is abused. I have a daughter, and that's where it gets a little murky for me. Honestly speaking, it gets a little murky because now you have men, I'm gonna say men, in locker rooms. Women are taking showers. There are men, with penises there. It just, and maybe I'm just old-fashioned, but it just doesn't seem safe to me. And I'm being really honest.
Okay, well, let me point something out. In California, do you know that we've had this law in place since 2013?
I've heard that it's already in place.
It's already in place. So we've been living this way for 3 years.
Yeah.
With
and it's working.
No incident.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of this is much ado about nothing. I mean, when we look at even schools, I mean, how many transgender students are at a given school? 1, maybe 2?
It's a great point.
We're talking about such a low incidence.
It's such a great point.
And at the end of the day, what we're talking about is, a transgender person should not have to be outed when they go to the bathroom. The reason there's been no incidents is I think in most cases people have no idea. I mean, if a woman who's, biologically male walks into a bathroom looking like a woman, no one is any the wiser.
Right.
And I just, the safety thing I have to push back on a little bit because, if we're talking about pedophiles, they haven't been sitting on their hands waiting for the law to change.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's a great
and
point.
And pedophiles and I don't know what the incidence is of pedophilic transgender people, but generally speaking, pedophiles are white Christian males. And sexual abuse happens.
What do you mean white Christian males?
They are. The incidence is Protestant white men.
All right.
I'm not saying that every white,
okay.
But I'm just saying if we're really going to look at risk, what we would be looking at is children going over to family friends' homes. I mean, that's where it happens the most often, not in a bathroom.
So what about some of the, and I'm going to say it, what about some of the esteemed experts that have said that the transgender is a disorder? It's actually a mental disorder. You're delusional. You're schizophrenic. You think you're this, but you're not. You're confused. Mm-hmm. And I would never disrespect someone who's transgender. I've known someone who's transgender. I would eat with them, hug them. They are people. Yeah. And I think in all these topics, it's always murky in the abstract.
Sure.
But then when you have a friend who's gay or transgender, they're good people.
Yeah.
And you love them. But what about that idea that there's confusion?
But see, here's the thing about civil rights. You get to think that it's a mental disorder, and they still get to use the bathroom of their choice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you think that.
Yeah.
They still should be able to use the bathroom of their choice.
Right. So where's this going to go? I mean, we know where Bernie stands. We have to talk about Bernie because I read something today. Yeah. Remind me. And Hilary stands. Trump, interestingly, I was talking to a Trump supporter the other day, and he was saying, he's a man of integrity and character, and he's a Republican. Stands for what is right. And I said, wait. And he said something about the transgender issue, and he said, he's going to stand for what is right. I said, wait. He punted. He said it's a state's issue. He will not make any comment on it like many of the Republicans, like me, who would say, I'm not really sure. It doesn't seem quite right to me.
Yeah.
He seems very moderate. He seems to be punting. I don't want to touch it. Anyway,
He probably
that's a side
doesn't
note.
want to touch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's politically correct for him to say.
But it sounds
it's
like
a state's
this is going to
issue.
be pushed through before then anyway. Isn't
Yeah.
Obama going to push this through?
Yeah, I mean, schools might lose their funding. Right now, Texas,
Yeah.
the lieutenant governor is saying, no, we're not going to allow men into women's locker rooms. And
But
they
there's no one's asking for a man to be into a locker room.
Well,
We're
a
talking
person with a
about
penis.
Boys.
Right?
I mean,
Well, but still.
yeah.
Like, isn't there a part of you, like, okay, when you were 16, there's some person who says he's a woman with his penis hanging out in the locker room.
Okay,
Like, isn't there a part of that
in
where...
a school setting, that would be a pretty big ruse for a boy to pretend to be a girl every single day just in order to...
I totally agree.
I mean...
When I was thinking critically about this issue, I was
Yeah.
thinking about the prankster man, the prankster sophomore that's going to walk into, his parents are going to have his ass.
Oh,
Sorry.
totally.
I agree. Totally.
Yeah, I mean, that's not going to happen. This would be like, the transgender student would already be a transgender. It wouldn't be a surprise. And I mean, probably...
Really good comments.
They might not even be out. No one's getting naked. I know, and isn't that funny? No one's getting naked in the locker rooms anyway. And what's interesting to me is...
I'm so old-fashioned. I am so
What's
old-fashioned.
interesting to me is, I mean, if everyone's concerned about a man in the locker room, like, what about all the boys that have been getting naked around each other and all of the, like, weird harassment and sexual joking that's been happening for eons? I mean, I'm a therapist. I hear lots of locker room stories from men. So it's like, you know, God forbid there might be one transgender, you know, in a women's bathroom, and all of a sudden we're just like, what about the girls? But it's like, anyway, I generally speaking, I don't think the locker rooms of days of yore are even a thing. My kids don't get naked at school anymore. Do they? I mean, in sports, they're not like showering the way they used to.
Oh, they aren't?
I don't think so. Are your kids? I don't know.
I don't know.
Like
I have high school kids. I don't ask them. They're 15 and 17 respectively. I don't know. I think about my daughter's at college. She's 20. And I just think about some dude. But your point, you killed me. You defeated me. It's not a dude. It's someone who she thought was a girl for the last 3 years.
Probably for the last 8 years. Probably since childhood.
Okay, you win.
You
Let's
know?
move on to something
Well,
else.
okay, but wait. I don't want to defeat you so quickly because
Again.
I think that aside from this issue, this is an example of where we veer politically because we've been so aligned in our dislike of Trump that we have not seemed to be on different sides, where you would be more concerned with the government overreach, where for me it's kind of like, yeah, I'm kind of okay with the government like coming in and like ordering us to be decent.
Well, I mean, decent is the key word. You're calling it decent.
Yeah.
And the majority of parents would not say it's decent. They would say, I think it's an overreach, right?
Yeah.
Aren't the polls saying, wait, hold on, I'm sending my kid to school and now some dude, and I mean that dude,
Yeah.
that's what they think is in my girl's locker room.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I've been seeing friends who live here in California posting like these horror stories, and I'm like, do you not know this is already going on? This is
And
already
that's where-
happening, and it's just, to me, it's fear-mongering, and it's people not wanting to admit that they're just really uncomfortable with LGBT people. Unless you're
But here's the thing, to you who
transgender
just
kid.
said you're a kid, a parent of a transgender kid, here's where I struggle, and I'm going to go out on a limb.
I'm gonna read these while you're
Yeah, read them. Kristen, at what point is the tail wagging the dog? At what point, and I'm going to go out on a big limb here, do the minorities rule? And by minorities, I clearly don't mean Hispanics and blacks, because I am vehemently opposed to racism. But at what point does the small 1% decide that, you know, that like there are tens of millions, we're in a democracy, there are tens of millions of parents that are concerned about people with penises being in girls' bathrooms and locker rooms. And at what point is a democracy...
Well, there are people with penises in all locker rooms.
But I'm saying...
I hear you.
Yeah, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
A guy with a penis in my daughter's locker room, or something with a penis. At what point do the tens of millions in a democracy have the right to say, I'm not comfortable with that? Call me old-fashioned, call me an evangelical, narrow-minded, but...
Well, I will say, here, I mean, in a democracy, I think that there are a lot more people on the other side than you think. And this is where our friends are going to diverge a little too, because I know you have much more conservative friends than I do. I have, you know, probably on the whole more progressive friends.
Yeah.
My Facebook feed looks like a bunch of people who think the same way I do. My Facebook feed looks like a lot of parents who are just like, live and let live. It's all going to be fine. And here's how to talk to your kid about transgender kids. I mean, my own daughter, India, read a great book, if you want to know how to talk to your kids about this issue, called George, about a transgender kid. She completely understands the whole issue, is not the least bit concerned.
Had your kid read a book about transgender? How old is she?
She's 9. It's a book it's a young adult novel. Yeah. There's actually one that Karis has read for even younger kids, I think it's called The Red Crayon. I mean, you know, I don't know. They're not as concerned as we are.
Well, you're not concerned. As
I'm
concerned
not
as
concerned.
I am.
Well, I'm not concerned because I have friends with transgender kids, and I know, you know, I wouldn't be the least bit concerned for those kids to be in the locker room with mine.
I think too.
Which I think is, I mean, the elusive locker room, I think, is also not a thing.
I
think we're sort of arguing.
Well, I agree. It's a red herring, and I agree with you on it.
But I think the red herring really is these horror stories that people are sharing because they don't want to come out and say, I'm just uncomfortable with LGBT youth. I think that there's some homophobia behind some of this too. Yeah,
and at the same time, there are smart people, especially at Johns Hopkins University, who are saying it's a disorder. This is a disorder, and I don't want to, I don't want to tie my entire theory to a few professors at one university, but I don't know. At the end of the day, I want to be respectful to people. That's I think probably how I'm different than a lot of my conservative friends who they're just in the abstract. I had a transgender friend. I loved her, and I respect people, but times are changing.
Yeah, they are changing. Yeah, and to your question of like, do the minorities rule? I mean, I think at the end of the day, this is an issue that affects very few people, and it affects those minorities. And so if I don't see it as them ruling. I see it as all of us making allowances to me, a more civilized society is a society that reaches down to sort of the least of these. And I want to say that not saying that I think transgender youth are less than other people, but I think that they are more bullied. I think they are more misunderstood. That's what I mean when I say that. In the same way that we as a society, pay taxes and give money to, they need protection. The same way we pay taxes and give money so that my friend's kid can go to autism treatment for free, and I pay taxes for that. It's like, again, like a society, we are more civilized when we recognize those in need. And
so let me ask you this then. I have some friends that are in higher levels of university academia. They are remarkably progressive. One is a gay man married, and they're at very high levels, and they are discriminated against for being white by people of color. One is a very renowned, not renowned, but author. He's white and married. He's discriminated against regularly for being heterosexual and white and privileged by people who just happen to be. And so they're starting to have this conversation about the left, saying, I don't even know anymore if I'm progressive because I'm getting so much discrimination by people.
Well, define discrimination.
Well, they are called out in their classrooms. They are
for their white privilege?
Just because they're white.
What does that mean? Like, what do you mean called out?
Students say, you're just some white man telling me what to do. What the hell do you know? You're white. You're married. You're a white, married, educated male. I'm supposed to listen to you?
But is that discrimination?
Whatever it is.
It's annoying.
Well, whatever it is, but they're saying, these are the most progressive people I've ever met. They write books. They're famous. One of them is very involved in the bathroom issues at a very prominent university, and he spends half of his time dealing not with the transgenders, but all the other genders who want representation for their own bathrooms. Not just 3, but like 19 bathrooms that people are claiming. At what point does this become crazy?
Well, I want to go back to your friends. I will say this, intersectionality is, kind of the crossroads of gender issues.
What's that word?
Intersectionality. So, the crossroads of LGBT issues and race issues and women's rights issues. And not every progressive is woke in every single category. So, your friend honestly might be having students push back because while he may be woke in terms of LGBT issues, he may be in the dark ages with his views on race, and he might be getting checked for that.
You would have to know him to know that he's way more progressive than you. I mean, this is one of the most long-haired, bohemian, educated, Manhattan, Soho people you've ever met. And he's like, I cannot even...
But you know what?
I can't even express anything in my classes, and it's literature, and it's the English departments.
This is a whole can of worms that I really want to come back to.
Okay,
we should do a whole episode on this.
Okay.
Because I do think...
This is so not about politics.
I think it's interesting because there are a lot of progressives who think they're super progressive, who I don't think are totally on board with race issues. I don't think it always carries over. I don't think just because you're super, super progressive, it means that you totally get everything.
But it almost sounds like, I mean, this is a unique episode, but it almost sounds like you're saying about this person that you've never met, it almost sounds like discrimination. Because he might be a racist.
Well, no, I'm not saying
closest
he might
friends
be a racist.
All of his friends are black.
I'm not saying he's a racist. I'm saying he may not have a good grasp on systemic racism, which individual racism and systemic racism, most of us are against individual racism.
I totally agree with you.
Not everybody is against systemic.
Absolutely.
And not everybody even believes that it's as big of a problem as it is. And I'm telling you, there are a lot of white liberals,
I totally agree with you on that one.
Who think they're super progressive, and then when you talk about systemic racism, they're just like, I hate racism. Let's move on. It's over.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree on that one.
Let's come back to that because that's a good one for another time. Okay. What was our other topics tonight? So you had said something on Facebook about Trump maybe picking Palin.
Well, so apparently Ben Carson, his new advisor, blew it in the limousine the other day and mentioned 5 of the potential candidates on Trump's shortlist.
Okay.
Of which Sarah Palin was one.
Uh-huh.
How credible this is, I don't know, but I don't think Trump is that stupid. If anything, he's proven himself to be remarkably shrewd. So I don't think Palin...
But let's use the word stupid subjectively. Would it really be stupid for him to have Palin? She totally rallies the same base he does. If he sees that his formula is working with a subset of America, Palin might be his perfect choice.
Could be.
People liked her. The same people who like Trump like her.
I don't think so. I think he brings in more moderate, disgruntled. I think she brings in the Ted Cruz Tea Party, hardcore.
That's why it would actually be smart.
Maybe.
She would bring credibility to the Christian right thing.
But I think someone like, is it Haley Barbour, the governor from South Carolina, who's much more moderate. She's a female, much more of the kind of Republican I like. Whoever he picks, I think it will be a brilliant pick. Only because he has proven himself to be in the highest level of shrewdness at every level to get to where he is.
But I have to say, I can't believe I'm saying this right now, but I do think Sarah Palin probably is his best pick. Here's why. And a commenter just said it.
What do you mean by best? In terms of winning or smartest? Okay.
A commenter just said it. He needs women votes. And
do women like her? Well, it depends where you live.
I think it depends where you live, but I think the women who might be on the fence with him, a woman who would vote, who would even potentially vote for Trump, could be won over by see, he likes women, which you see.
Right.
You see a lot of people.
She has boobs. He likes women.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have a black friend. I'm not racist.
Right.
So I could see where she could get the women vote, she could get the conservative vote, and he needs both.
What are they saying? Anything good?
Nothing right now.
The other short list, apparently, but Carson could be wrong, was Cruz, Rubio, Kasich. His competition, and I don't remember who else. So
let's talk about really quick before we end Hillary and the conservative vote. So now we've got a number of the religious right who are turned off by Trump, yourself included, and really these are votes for Hillary to win.
Yeah.
or Bernie.
Yeah.
Do you think Hillary could win the conservative vote from these people in the middle?
I mean, it's interesting. It's been interesting for me watching Paul Ryan, who, as a Republican, I look to people like Paul Ryan and say, I could be a Republican because of people like Paul Ryan or John McCain. They are my hope for this party. But seeing Paul Ryan acquiesce or whatever he's doing, this kind of nuancing where he's not against Trump, but now he's meeting with him and we see eye to eye. I mean, I think largely for me it depends on where Paul Ryan comes down. But if these people, these Republicans that I respect, endorse Trump for the sake of the Republican Party, I'll vote for Hillary.
Yeah.
Because I'm a man of ideals and principles, and I will not vote for somebody for the sake of my party.
Totally.
If the person's a racist. Ever.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I have conservative friends, and they are as anti-Hillary as they are anti-Trump. And so when it comes down to that question, I think they'll vote for their party.
Yeah, and I just don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand. Like, I'm not a huge Hillary fan, but I don't have facts about Benghazi. I don't have facts about the emails. I don't have facts about.
Okay, I don't think it's about that stuff. I think, and you know this to be true, with conservative Christians, they are often a single issue voter, and that issue is abortion. Yeah. And we all know Hillary loves abortion. You know, that's the. Yeah. I'm not saying she does, but that is definitely the perception by the religious right, that Hillary is just like wants to give everyone a free abortion. You know, and she is very much obviously pro-choice, but I think that there are so many people who are single issue voters that they will not vote for Hillary because they perceive her to be in that camp.
Yeah. And
Trump has not been as vocal.
Yeah, and I think also there's just a kind of a latent, I don't even think a lot of Republicans could put their finger on, well, she's a Clinton, I hate her.
Yeah,
I mean, I agree. She's a woman, she's a Clinton, I hate her, she's the worst. But as I've had Facebook, conversations over the last few weeks, I, as a Republican who is a consistent voting Republican pretty much across the board with one exception in 2004, I don't understand, given Trump's support of Planned Parenthood, as a Republican.
Yeah.
I'm neutral in Israel. I'm for a single-payer nationalized health care.
Yeah.
I don't see how Republicans could have the same hatred for Hillary when he has spent a countless amount of dollars supporting her to win the presidency. It makes no sense.
It doesn't, but you and I both know that logic is not always involved in political decisions.
Yeah, I had someone I was speaking to this week who made the comment of, talking about Trump, and again, there was no reason behind it. Right. It was, I'm for America, and I want to make America strong again, and this is a hardcore Republican for free trade. I said, but he's threatening to tell businesses that they cannot make their widgets in China. Yeah. That's not a Republican. I'm for big business, and I want to see business. There's no logic.
Well, and it's like, so the transgender bathroom issue is an overreach, but like abortion and like telling people they have to make things.
We have to have just something just on moral / ethical issues, social issues as well. Stay tuned.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in.
This was long.
I know it was longer, but it was a good discussion. I'm glad we had that talk, and thank you I appreciate that you went there with your thoughts on the transgender bathroom thing.
It's a challenge.
I know. All right, we will post both of these to our blogs where you can leave additional comments. Thanks for watching.